and thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark TV. You know who I am, Dr. Angela Butchester, and you know what I like to do on my show. I want to enlighten, inspire, and empower you to become your best self. Now, scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And today we want you fired up about our guest. Her name is Alice Love, and we're talking about her book, When Great Granny Was Small Like Me. So go on, get comfy, get cozy, get your coffee or get your tea, because we are about to get started. Hello, Alice. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, hello, Angela, Dr. Angela. I'm so happy to be able to speak with you.
I am so excited to have you on. Now, those who listen to me on radio know that I loved spending time with my grandmother and all of the stories that she has to share. So I can't wait to talk to you about your book and all of the stories that you have to share as well. My first question for you is, did you ever think that you would become an author? Is this something that you've always wanted to do?
No, it just happened. One of my nieces thought that it would be nice if each of our family were to write about our experiences growing up on our farm. And so I wrote my first book about that. And this one has evolved since.
I love it. I love it. Now, speaking of growing up on a farm, and we don't want to spend too much time on the bio question, which I know sometimes is important, but I want to ask, what do you believe has helped make you, you along the way?
I think it's a matter of all the experiences I've had and watching my parents and the general farm life and just each thing that life has thrown at me.
Absolutely. I think that's true. I know that on social media, people do remind folks that your troubles, your problems, your obstacles don't have to keep you down. If you learn the lesson from them, keep moving, and it just makes you that much stronger. So I think each generation has some obstacle that they have overcome, and boy, are they stronger for having done it. And now they're passing on that information to us. I think it's awesome. Awesome. Now, the title of your book, When Great Granny Was Small Like Me, I like the title. What made you decide that that would be the title of your book?
The same niece that inspired me to start originally had childcare centres, and she was looking for a book that did exactly what I've done with this one. And she couldn't find any book in any of the bookshops she went to, so she asked me if I'd do one for her. So I started out by drawing the pictures and then tied them all together with a wee poem.
I love it. I love it. You know, it is amazing how so many creative people are in the world. And when you find that there's a need to be filled, many times you're able to fill it if you're simply prompted to do so. I love that. I love it. I think that's awesome. Now, as far as the perfect reader or ideal reader is concerned, what age group is perfect for your book?
Probably mainly preschoolers or early school age. But I think anyone would probably quite enjoy coming through.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I love asking that question because I think that the author is, of course, one of the best people to ask that question of, because you know what you had in mind when you were writing the story. But I found out one time, never dawned on me that this would even be an option because it's not my field. But one author gave me the answer and said, though it's for little children, we found that when someone has had perhaps like a a traumatic brain injury and they have to learn how to read all over again, this is a great book for those people as well, because you think of, like you said, that pre-kindergarten, kindergarten age group where you're learning how to read and put it together. And I said, amazing. That's true. You can always share this with someone who is perhaps just learning to read, no matter their age. So I love it. I love it. Now, one of the things that you talk about is not having electricity. There are many people who don't have stories like that. They're not familiar, but their grandparents or great grandparents are able to share. Can you tell us a little bit about that? What was it like growing up with no electricity?
Oh, what you've never had, you don't miss. Our wood and coal range was always going, heating water, kettles and flat irons, boiling porridge, soup and vegetables. The oven was always ready to cook meat, scones, biscuits, cakes and bread. At a much lower temperature, it was sometimes used to revive a cold lamb wrapped in a sack. We had a butter well in the dairy where we kept milk, cream, butter, and also set jellies. The butter well was nearly a metre long, half a metre wide, probably half a metre deep, lined with concrete and had a wooden lid. So it was always nice and cool. A large meat safe was on the outside wall on the shady side of the house. It also had a door opening into the large pantry. Candles provided nighttime light. And in our kitchen dining room, there was a petrol light that provided very similar lighting to the electric one we had later. A car battery powered our radio and the telephone had its own batteries. So it was no problems.
I love it. I love it. And as you were talking, it made me think about the stories of the people, the baby boomer generation listening to the stories of their parents, that what we call the greatest generation here. My grandmother was born in 1908, my grandfather in 1903, paternal grandparents, and their stories were so interesting, like how you're talking about being able to still function. But some people go, how do you function and not have electricity? But yet life was still fun. And we have very similar stories of those who perhaps live in the Midwest in the United States, out in that rural part of the land. So I love that. I think that with electricity comes a lot of distractions, that when we go away, many times on vacation to the mountains or to the lake, we're getting away from all of those things. So I have to agree with you. There is something very nice about not having electricity as well. Now, you grew up, if I understand correctly, in New Zealand after World War II. There we go, that greatest generation again, taking care of business in World War II. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, during World War II, of course, most of our young men were away fighting the war. Before each of those lads left home, the district provided a dance to farewell them. And we were always hopeful that there would be another dance for them when they came home. Because there was a shortage of manpower, retired teachers and doctors came back to work to free up the younger men, and girls took over a lot of the jobs that the men used to do. My sister was a land girl on my father's farm. Now, food was being sent to Britain, so it was rationed in New Zealand. And to make distribution fair, we had food coupons. We also had to have coupons for clothing. A blackout, because there was some fear that we could be bombed. So at night time, we had to have all the windows covered with heavy curtains so that there was no light could be shown from outside. During that time, American Marines were billeted with each family in this district for a week between fighting in the Pacific. And one of the lads with us was very ill with malaria during that time. And there was also a dance organised for those lads while they were with us.
Oh my goodness. I love how that was such a mindful moment, even though it was a sad occasion because your brother, husband, friend, classmate was about to go off to war, but at least you had a happy moment in those last few hours with them before they shipped off. I love that idea. Very, very nice. I love it. Now, one thing that I used to really enjoy was hearing my grandmother's advice about the various relationships in the world, how to be your best in a particular relationship. So, if you don't mind, I'd like to ask you that as well. When it comes to being in a marriage, there's great advice that you're able to pass on to younger wives or to those who are engaged. What bit of wisdom do you like to share when you talk about spouses?
Before we were married, we were given some words of wisdom. There are 3 important gives to make a marriage work. Give, give in, forgive. A marriage is between 2 people and no third person should be involved, unless that third person is the Lord Jesus Christ. With his help, it is possible to ride out the difficulties that occur when the first euphoria of the marriage begins to wear off. If one is always looking after the welfare of one's partner and thinking the best of them, that may be what is needed for them to respond. It is very necessary to be able to talk openly with each other and to listen to what the other person is saying. One should take time to get to know one's prospective partner before you commit yourself, making sure you share the same values. My marriage lasted for 68 years. We met while I was doing my nursing training and we became best friends. Ken was an apprentice and neither of us had much money, so we usually went for a walk or a bike ride together. If we were visiting either of our families out of town, we would use Ken's motorbike. We travelled on that motorbike until 18 months after our marriage, when we were expecting our first child. I wanted to knit baby clothes while travelling, so we had to buy a car. Ken was a wonderful husband, but 9 years after we were married, he had some health issues that were very disabling for over 10 years. While working with polyurethane varnish with insufficient ventilation, he developed chronic fatigue syndrome. As well as the fatigue, he was very depressed. Luckily, after that, he was his old self again. He was a great father, even while he wasn't well, and loved his children. He enjoyed playing with them after work and then would bath them while I finished preparing dinner. We both worked hard and were a good team. We had a few disagreements, mainly about what trees should be cut down.
I love that. I love that. Not only did you give three very good bits of wisdom there, but you reminded us that we need to be a partnership, that it needs to be that togetherness, that give and take. I love that. Oh,
I'm Alice Dove, and I'm the author of the book When Great Granny Was Small Like Me. It is available from Amazon. It is also an ebook.
Have the past few weeks or months been challenging? Yes, for all of us. We've been thrown into circumstances which we could never have imagined. Loss of jobs, working from home, general uncertainty, all while dealing with COVID. It's causing us to be a little on edge. If you need someone to talk to, Dr. Angela Chester can help. Visit newlifepastoralcounseling.com to get started. We're in this together.
A natural disaster may force you to evacuate, and the coronavirus could impact your emergency plans. So take steps now to help your family and community prepare. Keep a supply kit stocked with cloth face coverings, disinfecting supplies, and hand sanitizers. Check with local officials about what shelter spaces will be open during quarantine efforts. And remember to review the CDC's guidelines with the whole family. Disasters won't wait. Neither should you. Visit ready.gov/plan to make a plan today.
Welcome to Daily Spark TV. Are you an author with a faith-based book? Be a guest. Serious about your product or service and want to try something new? Sponsor an episode. I see you're ready to get started. So visit drangela.chester.com. Thanks again for watching Daily Spark TV.
now, speaking of children, that's another relationship that we need to kind of have a little bit of wisdom about. I know many times a new mom will call her mom and say, "Help, I don't know what I'm doing." And then we want to share those beautiful moments along the way as our children grow and mature. How do you talk about the relationship of children?
Love, safety, and teaching. Much of the learning is from seeing the examples set by parents. Children are very sensitive to vibes between parents. My dad and mum in the 1930s loved, respected, and helped each other. There were 24 cows to be hand milked before the day's work started. My sister and I went to the cowshed with our parents about 6 a.m. We could each milk a cow by the age of 3.5 years. When Dad was shearing the sheep, Mum would milk all 24 cows on her own. Dad reciprocated by doing as much of the heavy work as he could about the house. He always tried to be around to turn the hand wringer on wash days and then carry the clothes basket out to the clothesline and help peg up the washing. If he was near the house, he would bring the washing in again, folding sheets and towels as he took them from the line. My favourite memory of my parents is of them holding hands under the table at lunchtime and then going out after lunch to look at the roses, still holding hands. I never heard them argue or raise their voices to each other. I grew up thinking that this was how all marriages were, and find it very sad that so many children don't have the same experience we had. Parents should be united about family rules. Be consistent so children know what is expected of them. Don't have too many rules. Be lavish with praise. Be fair. You are the parents. It is your job to teach and love your children. Each child will be different. Trust your instincts. Enjoy your children. They will grow up and leave the nest sooner than you would believe possible.
Oh my goodness, that is so true. What great advice you have given. You know, we do have to remember to do those things, to be wise with them as well, not just with our spouse or coworkers or the things that we do in our adult world, but to also make sure that we are there for our kids as well. I love it. I love it. I know that I personally enjoy being a mom, so I can only imagine stepping into that newfound role for someone for the very first time and being as excited as I was and having someone giving great advice like you just did. It's an awesome thing. I love it. Now, moving a little bit through the various relationships that we have, you also talk about relationships with siblings or amongst siblings. I know for so many people, they're an only child, so they don't know what it's like to grow up with siblings around them. Where others, they say, "Oh my goodness, let me tell you what it's like to have brothers and or sisters." So my next question for you is, do you talk about siblings in the book? And if you do, what piece of advice do you give there?
Well, with siblings, you will probably have had strict rules for your oldest child or children, and these children will think it unfair when these rules are not there for their younger siblings. The second child is usually very competitive with the first, and the third child more easygoing and doing their own thing. Sometimes they will all play happily together, and there will be times when it seems that World War III has broken out in your house. The oldest child will have more responsibilities, so it is necessary for the parents to appreciate this and to make sure they have extra me-only time with a parent and occasional special treats.
I have to agree with you there. I know that that was one of the things that my mom did with her grandchildren. She took them, each one of them on their own special day, you know, just time with grandmother to be able to not only talk and have a good time, but to kind of have all of that praise that you were talking about before just lavished upon them, to just have some me time away from your siblings. And I tell you, that's one of the things that they talk about as they've gotten older, that was pretty awesome. We didn't realize that we needed it so much growing up, but now that they've gotten older and they now have children of their own, they see how important these things that you're talking about now really are in your life. I love it. Now, we all have friends. It doesn't matter if they are friends we've had since kindergarten or perhaps friends we made while we were off at college or university. With that being said, friends is still a relationship group. How do you address being friends?
Well, to me, a friend is someone who is always there, a shoulder to cry on, someone to rejoice with, a safe recipient of confidences. You've got to be reliable and positive. To me, that is a friend.
I have to agree with you there. I have some friends that have been around or in my life since I was a little girl, and they are amazing folks. And it doesn't matter that I moved 3,000 miles away and moved to a different coast from which I grew up. We're still friends to this day. And that's a really, really awesome thing. So you are so right. Friends are important and they will stick around. I love it. Now, I'd like to shift gears just a little bit and ask you about being an author. When you were going through the process of putting your book together, did you find that you needed to have a quiet space when you were writing, or did the hustle and bustle of the day not bother you at all?
No, what I found was that I was living in the past, and my husband was very understanding about that, and memories kept coming back, and particularly for that book, we had to visit museums all around the country to find exactly the same things that we had in our own home. We found most of them, but I couldn't find a flat iron anywhere. And then I suddenly said to Ken, I think we've got one in our shed. We had 2 of them.
I love it. I love it. I remember the first time I saw, if I'm understanding you correctly, the iron that you had to place on the coals or in the fire, and then you would iron it out, and it was heavy like a weight. I remember the first time I saw one of those, and I said, oh my goodness, these women were strong. They had to, this was work to be able to really iron out your clothing or the linens or whatever it was that you were doing. So absolutely, I'm so glad that you brought that up. That is something that the younger generation needs to definitely put their eyes on if they get a chance to do that. I love it. I love it. Now, as far as writing more is concerned, so many authors will say, I've written the book and I'm done. Others will say, I wish to write until I can't write anymore. Do you have any new projects that you're working on right now?
Now, I have had, my first book was published just with a small company in New Zealand. And that was my growing up years. Then I did the children's book. And I have also now written one of my nursing experiences, and up to the time when our 3rd child was born. But I haven't published that one yet, but I'm thinking about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. Well, Alice Love, thank you so much for coming on Daily Spark TV and spending some time with us here today. Thank you for being a guest.
It's been a great pleasure. Thank you, Dr. Angela.
And viewers, we hope that we have enlightened, inspired, and empowered you today to be your best. As always, may the Lord continue to shine his face upon you. May you receive his grace and his mercy in all that you do. Until next time, everyone, remember that you are blessed in the Lord. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.
I'm Alice Love, and I'm the author of the book, When Great Granny Was Small Like Me. It is available from Amazon. It is also an ebook.
Hi, do you have something to share? Be a guest. Want to sponsor an episode? Visit drangela.chester.com. Thanks again for watching Daily Spark TV.